Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sleep Detective podcast, where good sleep, health, and longevity are inevitable. All right, today I'm going to talk all about perimenopause. I work with quite a few women who are in their 40s and 50s. I am 46, almost 47, so I'm definitely in this phase of life as well. And so I just want to explain how hormones are affecting sleep, especially in perimenopause, and also tell you that perimenopause doesn't have to mean insomnia. I think so many women accept when they, stop sleeping well at this time, they just accept it and think that that's how it has to be. And I want you to know that that is not true. So before I get into it, I want to talk about my previous client, Emily. She is in her 40s. She's a mom and a teacher, and she was taking forever to fall asleep, taking hours. It had gotten to the point where she wasn't sleeping in bed with her husband because he was disrupting her. And so she really wanted to be able to fall asleep normally and be able to sleep with her husband again. So she wrote me just a few months in, things are going great, getting to bed and falling asleep within 30 minutes now. Love it, with three exclamation points. So again, this is, you know, an example of someone who is in that perimenopausal stage, but she was able to sleep normally and get great sleep. So this is possible for you too. I want to start by saying that symptoms of hormone imbalance before perimenopause means that you will likely have a greater chance of symptoms in perimenopause and menopause. So if you deal or have dealt with things like PMS and heavy cramps and really heavy periods, um, then that's a sign already that hormones are out of balance. And so if that's happening before perimenopause even happens, then yes, they're just going to continue to get even more out of balance as you get older and as hormones start decreasing and cycles start getting irregular and all of those things. And so then that's when we can get the symptoms of night sweats and hot flashes and insomnia. So the main hormone that is affecting our sleep in perimenopause is going to be low estrogen. So estrogen starts declining at this time, and that's why our cycles start getting irregular. A lot of times they get shorter first before they start getting farther and farther apart. And um, yeah, and then this can lead also to sleep issues for sure. Also, low estrogen symptoms are gonna be those night sweats and hot flashes as well. So, this is happening a lot because of estrogen. Now, low progesterone can also lead to hot flashes too. And what's really important too is that the hormones are in balance with each other. So this is partly what's happening is estrogen declines before progesterone does, and those hormones are out of balance, and then that actually affects neurotransmitters. And so the balance of hormones is so important. And I think that that's what a lot of doctors are overlooking. I mean, I am amazed at how many women I talk to who have been prescribed hormone replacement therapy without getting their hormones tested at all. So they're totally guessing based on symptoms as to what's going on. And I see so many of them whose like their estrogen is super high and their progesterone is depleted, or vice versa. And that's not what we want. Is again, it's really important for the hormones to also be in balance with each other. It's not the same if, oh, estrogen is fine, it's in range, and progesterone, it's fine, it's in range. But if one is high and one is at the low end of the range, they're out of balance. So that's something super important to look at. So if you're being prescribed hormones without being tested, I would go see someone else because if you're taking hormones, ideally you want to be testing every few months to make sure that you're getting the right dose, to make sure that everything is in balance. Now, another thing that can happen as estrogen drops is that then testosterone becomes higher than estrogen. And that can lead to some facial hair and acne. Like if you think about getting whiskers on your chins, you think about like grandmothers with, kind of the whiskers on their upper lip and on their chin. A lot of times that's because estrogen is depleted. And so testosterone is higher than estrogen. It might not be super high, but again, it's about the balance. It's higher than estrogen. And so that can lead to that facial hair growth. So if you have that, that's also a sign of hormone imbalance. Now, what I want to talk about that's so important is why these hormones get out of balance in the first place. Because there are many women who go through perimenopause and menopause without major symptoms. It's not a big deal. And then, but we're coming to think of perimenopause meaning that you have to deal with these symptoms because that is what many women are dealing with. Probably the majority of women are having these symptoms of perimenopause, but it doesn't mean that that is what is ideal or it's what's common, but it's not what's actually normal. So, hormones become depleted and out of balance from primarily chronic stress. So, when our body is making cortisol all the time to deal with stress, it takes those resources away from our sex hormones. Cortisol and our sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, are all steroid hormones. So, they're using the same resources. So, when we're under stress, and by stress, yes, I mean mental stress. So, of course, being stressed about work or parenting or money, going through a divorce, dealing with aging parents, dealing with trauma, all of those things are stress. And then there can also be stressors in the body that you don't even know are there, which I'll talk about in a minute. So, your body has to make cortisol to deal with all of that stress. And so over time, it takes those resources away from our sex hormones. So I see some women, even, in their 30s, whose hormones are really depleted. And that's because they've been dealing with a lot of stress in their lives and in their bodies. And then it's really common for me as women get older to see just depleted hormones across the board, low estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone. And yes, that is a sign, a result of years and decades of chronic stress. Now, some other things that can cause these depleted hormones is going to be a low cholesterol or a low fat diet. So, hormones are actually made of cholesterol and fat. So, we need to be eating enough cholesterol and fat. Different nutrient deficiencies, especially of minerals, can lead to this depletion of hormones. Gluten sensitivity also has been known to lead to low progesterone and estrogen. Of course, childbirth and breastfeeding can deplete our hormones as well. So, that's stressful for our bodies, and our bodies are going to prioritize feeding our children over feeding our hormones. Birth control definitely depletes hormones and can get them very out of balance. And then neurotransmitters as well. And what's interesting, I mentioned before, hormones affect neurotransmitters, like low serotonin can lead to low estrogen. And so then both of those things are causing stress in the body and also affecting sleep. So, really, sleep issues and perimenopause are about more than just hormones because there is a reason why those hormones have become depleted to the extent that they've gotten so out of balance that they're causing symptoms. So, my, my goal with the testing that I do is to find out where these stressors in the body are. So, does it have to do with gut health? A pathogen in the gut, like a parasite, bacterial overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, like candida, super stressful to our bodies, to our gut. And those creatures create a lot of toxins. They cause a lot of inflammation, especially at night. So they definitely then, they cause our bodies to make this cortisol all the time, which again then takes these resources away from sex hormones. So for me, like I had hormone imbalance when I developed insomnia at age 39, but I also had a parasite and I also had gluten sensitivity. that had likely caused that hormone imbalance at a relatively young age. Now, I already mentioned neurotransmitters, but lack of serotonin, lack of GABA, all of these things are going to affect our sleep. So I'm usually seeing that, and that can be because of low hormones. It can also be for genetic reasons, for nutrient deficiencies, and poor gut health. It's actually the good bacteria in our gut that make up to 90% of our neurotransmitters. Liver detox issues is another thing I see in almost everyone, all of my clients, men and women of all ages. And that's because when we're dealing with pathogens and toxins, it puts this extra burden on our liver. And when our liver can't detoxify properly, those toxins build up, they cause a lot of inflammation, and then the body's constantly releasing cortisol to deal with that inflammation. Mineral imbalance. This also happens over time. I see this in many of my clients, or just depleted minerals overall. And that happens when we're stressed because our adrenals burn through sodium and potassium so fast when we're under stress. And our bodies burn through magnesium at 5 times the rate when we're stressed versus when we aren't. Plus, if our gut isn't healthy and it's not absorbing nutrients from food, then we're also going to become depleted in minerals. So, this is a common thing that I see in so many of our clients. And then, toxins, figuring out where toxins coming from, if there are heavy metals, if there are mold toxins, all of those things are contributing to stress in the body that is then affecting hormone balance. So I've worked with many women who are at menopause in this time, who have been prescribed hormone replacement therapy. And it helped with some of their symptoms, but it didn't help with their sleep. And so that's because there are still these other imbalances going on. Or if it helps with your sleep, but not some of your other symptoms, then again, that's still a sign that there are other imbalances going on. I've also, well, I'll say that in a minute. So the question is, what do we do about this? So there are supplements that can support hormones directly. So things like chaseberry and Vitex, and there are supplements that combine both of these if you want to support both estrogen and progesterone. Something that I've had a lot of success with myself and with my clients is maca. And there's a specific supplement called Feminescence Pro that uses different strains of maca. They have a premenopausal formula, a perimenopausal, and a postmenopausal formula. So that can be really helpful, and it supports sex hormones and also supports the adrenals as well. So it's helping with stress as well. I've been taking maca for the past few months now, and a few years ago is when I started noticing that my cycles were all over the place. I actually went to do the Dutch test on day 19 and got my period and was in total shock because I wasn't tracking my cycles at that point. So I didn't really know what was going on. Then realized, okay, this is a very short cycle. So I started tracking my cycles ever since then. And it's been up and down. Like I would have a 21-day cycle, and then I'd have a 40-day cycle, and then a 20-day cycle, and then a 36-day cycle. And I've been taking this Feminescence Pro for the past few months, and I had two 21-day cycles in a row, and then my last cycle was 26 days, which is the most normal it's been in a very long time. So I think that that is helping regulate my cycle. And, when I first realized that my cycles were getting out of whack and that I might be in perimenopause, I was kind of freaking out. And then I realized, well, I don't have any other symptoms. So maybe this isn't a big deal. This is what's going to happen. Like, it's inevitable that our cycles are going to become different, become irregular, and then cease altogether. That is what is going to happen. The age that happens is going to be different for everyone. So once I accepted that, and I realized, oh, okay, I don't have any other symptoms. I'm sleeping great. I've never had a hot flash or a night sweat, and I'm gonna knock on wood here because I realize there's still time. But I I realize that perimenopause does not have to mean poor sleep. Now, I will say once you are in menopause, that is when I would suggest actually supplementing with actual hormones bioidentical hormones. At that point, herbs and things to boost sex hormones aren't really going to work because the ovaries aren't making hormones anymore. So if someone's hormones have become depleted enough, then the only way to boost them once someone is in menopause and possibly even perimenopause is with actual hormones. So, the way to sleep 7 or more hours uninterrupted during perimenopause is to find everything in your body that is causing stress and address those things and also support your hormones. And when you do that, everything in your body gets back in balance and then you can sleep normally. So that is what we will help you with in the Complete Sleep Solution program. I use 4 lab tests and some other assessments to get the big picture of what's going on in your body. I see it as everyone has this puzzle that we need to put together. There are different pieces in everyone's puzzle as to what is causing their sleep issues. So it's usually some combination of gut health and hormones and neurotransmitters and liver detox issues and toxins and more. So with the testing, the assessments, we figure out what the pieces are for each person. So it's very personalized. And then it's also very much a body and mind program. So while the lab testing is super important, there's always a psychological component to not sleeping as well, and to dealing with stress in life in general. We tend to have a lot of stressors in midlife as we have usually children, we have careers, we have families, we have aging parents. There's a lot going on. And so it's really important that we're looking at that too, because that mental stress affects the body over time. So this is how you sleep better anytime, but especially in perimenopause. So if you are ready to sleep 7 or more hours a night uninterrupted, then the first step is to book a consultation to talk about the Complete Sleep Solution program and see how it can help you. And the link to that is in the show notes. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week.